And right now we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Scarlet Fu, taking you through to that closing bell with a global simulcast. It starts now. Carol Massar in the radio booth. Matt Miller in today for Tim Stenovic as we welcome our audiences across all of our platforms, television, radio, and our partnership with YouTube. A phenomenal day, Carol Massar, as we recoup some of the phenomenal losses from last Friday.
It's kind of amazing because Friday, I mean, it just felt like the headlines never stopped. We did see selling and then, like it never happened. We're seeing some buying into the close, and it is fairly broad-based buying today, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, we're up, 1.5%. We lost about 1.6% on Friday. So almost everything that we lost due to that horrible jobs report has been made back. Maybe the market is with Donald Trump and believes that that was just political.
You look at the two-year yield and how it's little changed after at one point dropping as much as 29 basis points on Friday. There's a lot of things that could move that, though, in the coming days. You've got some massive auctions. You've got the 10-year and the 30-year debt being sold this week.
Yeah, and don't forget, I mean, at least in terms of equities here, we also have a pretty large slate of earnings once again. I know we got the big Mag 7s out of the way other than NVIDIA, but you're going to get a lot of names that are much more consumer-facing, the Airbnbs of the world, Ubers of the world. After the bell tonight, we get Palantir, so a read on AI. So a lot that could also shape the direction of this market.
And let's not forget that we still could get news on the trade front and the tariff front, certainly from the White House. So still lots to come this week.
Absolutely. On a day where a lot of us woke up and we're kind of wondering whether Friday's sell-off would carry over into today, we got a big response by the dippers saying, Anytime we've seen these drops in the past, we've seen those people come in pretty quickly here to buy that dip, and they did it in a big way, a way that pushed the Dow Jones Industrial Average up by almost 600 points, or about 1.4% on the day. The S&P 500 pushed up by more than 90 points, or 1.5% on the day. The NASDAQ Composite pushed up 400 points, or 1.9% on the day. And the Russell 2000, that's your outperformer, 46 points higher than where it was on Friday, closing out up 2.1%.
All right, guys, as we said, pretty much broad-based buying in today's session. Scarlett, we've got 430 names gaining ground on this Monday, 71 to the downside, 2 unchanged.
Yeah, pretty lopsided there, and that's what you'll see in the IMAP as well. There is one sector that did finish in the red, and that is energy, down about 0.4% as crude oil declines about 1.5%. Certainly Brent did, at least. In terms of the gainers, communication services and tech each gaining more than 2%. Utilities also finishing up by 1.75%.
All right, guys, let's get to some of the individual gainers. This one, in fact, the number one gainer in both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100, ticker is IDXX. We're talking about IDEX Labs, soaring the most intraday ever after posting a beat and raising the quarter outlook, fueled by demand at the company's companion animal division. So basically, it's got these instruments. They do cellular analysis at vet clinics, checks blood, checks some other things. But anyway, that seemed to be some outperformance. This
companion
stock, by the way,
animal division. We call them pets.
Sorry. This is what happens when you read the press release. Stock's up about 64% year to date, but again, up 27%, Matt, in today's session. Wayfair, we just talked with the chief financial officer, stock up 13%. Online retailer reported second quarter results that were much stronger than expected. BI out saying that Wayfair is better than expected. Results suggest the worst is behind, and the home furnishing retailer may be on an upward trajectory. And then got to mention Joby Aviation, up about 19%, planning to buy the helicopter rideshare business of Blade Air Mobility for as much as $125 million in stock and cash. So some real big outperformers here, Matt.
All right, there are still some losers in today's market, not huge ones, but Berkshire Hathaway is a giant company and a very widely held stock. The Class B shares down right now, you can see only 3%. But it was at one point the biggest intraday drop since May 5th. So Warren Buffett's company took a $3.8 billion impairment on its Kraft Heinz stake, and that was the big concern there. By the way, Kraft Heinz is also a separately traded company. Berkshire owns, I think, 27%, but the shares in Kraft Heinz themselves also fell. On Semiconductor was a big loser today, at one point much bigger than the losses we see now. Right now, well, 15-16% is pretty serious. Those shares down after the company reported second quarter results. Revenue was slightly better than expected, but operating margin was under the consensus. Earnings and revenue guided slightly above consensus. This, according to a Truist analyst who has a $43 price target on the shares, but they are not looking good today. And then LyondellBasell, which makes plastics essentially for a ton of consumer and automotive products. Those shares down after another drop on Friday. They had at least 12 analysts cut their price target for LyondellBasell, including Morgan Stanley, who said the stock, JP Morgan, who said that the stock is going to trade sideways from here on out. It's a 6th day of declines.
All right, let's check in on the yield space here because we talk about the phenomenal moves that we saw in the equity market on Friday. We saw phenomenal moves in the Treasury space as well on a price basis, the strongest day for Treasuries all year long, and that continued a little bit into today, particularly on the longer end of the yield curve. Prices moving higher, yields moving lower, 3 basis points on the long end of the curve. The 2-year yield, the short end of the curve, sitting things out here, ticking higher, but only by less than 1 basis point.
You look at the bond market today, it's like Friday never happened. I mean, it's pretty remarkable how muted the action is today. And we had a day on Friday where bad economic news was interpreted as bad news for the market. Today, that bad news is being interpreted as not necessarily bad news.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of, where we go, right? It goes back and forth. And then there was a story, right, on the Bloomberg that talked about all these Wall Street pros warning investors to get ready for some kind of drop.
Yes, I saw that.
So...
Dude, that was, what a day to click send on that story. The big take yesterday was like, yields are going up, 450 is the new normal. And meanwhile, we're at 420. I mean, yields are the most fascinating part of this market because of the fact that you had a huge rebound in stocks, and we're still so far down on the levels when it comes to bond yields.
And it gets to this idea sort of where we see the next activity here. We should point out we are awaiting several earnings after the bells tonight, including from Hims and Hers and from Palantir. Palantir just crossing the wire right now. I'm going to start with the forecast. The company saying that for the full year, it sees revenue in a range of $4.14 to $4.15 billion. That's an increase over the previous guidance that it had given of about $3.9 billion on average. On adjusted operating profit, $1.91 billion to $1.92 billion. Again, raising the profit forecast up from about $1.72 billion. I'm going to go back to the quarter that just passed. That was the second quarter. The company did beat on both the top and the bottom line in that realm as well. $1 billion in revenue. Street was looking for $939 million. And on the EPS side, the company, Scarlet, posting 16 cents a share adjusted EPS. The Street, on average, was looking for 14.
All right, let's take a look at the earnings release. The company talking about how this was a phenomenal quarter. They're seeing the astonishing impact of AI leverage. And in terms of the commercial business, revenue growth of 93% year over year, revenue growth of 48% year over year as well. And they're looking at third quarter revenue they're guiding it to 50% growth year over year as well. I mean, these are massive numbers when you look at it. Is it massive enough to justify the gains that we've seen so far? And the initial answer, at least, seems to be yes, given that the stock is up about 1.5% after hours trade.
It's interesting. We talked with our Mandeep Singh, Matt and I did earlier, and said he was focusing on that commercial segment. And he said anything below 70% would be a miss. So they easily beat and when it comes to that. But he also just talked about, this one in terms of price to sales and what we are seeing in terms of the ratio. Some real overvaluation, but at least initially it seems like investors are okay with it. And the stock is up about 2.8% here in the aftermarket.
Yeah, for the first time, U.S. commercial revenue grew faster than government revenue at 93% year over year compared to 53%. So massive
big number.
Massive release there from Palantir. We're also getting, as Romaine said, Hims and Hers earning right now. Revenue in the second quarter was $545 million. The estimate was for $552 million. So missing on the revenue line. EPS in the second quarter was 17 cents versus 6 cents the same time a year ago. And then in terms of the outlook, third quarter adjusted EBITDA, $60 million to 70. The estimate was for 76.7 million. So missing there as well. looking like it's going to be a down arrow story if the outlook doesn't match what the street had, and indeed the stock is getting decimated in the after hours.
Yeah, you see HIM's down about 10% here. One of the biggest decliners in the after hours trade. To the upside, though, Palantir and BioMarin, which just reported earnings. Those are your two biggest gainers. The third biggest gainer, that actually belongs to Axon. This, of course, is the maker of tasers and other the defense products for the police systems here. The company did report that net sales did come in ahead of estimates. It does look like the EPS came in a little bit light, but the company guiding higher for its full year revenue forecast and its full year EBITDA forecast, and that might be a big part of the reason you're seeing a 4% jump in the stock in the after hours trade.
And just a quick mention here of Tanger as well, the mall operator reporting, total revenue of $140.7 million. Analysts were looking for revenue of $132.9 million. So that is a beat on that front. It has also raised its full year 2025 guidance as well. As for the FFO per share, the reported number was 58 cents. That beats the average analyst estimate by about 2 pennies.
All right, in Tanger, we're seeing shares up about 0.6% here in the aftermarket.